Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring. Welcome to the podcast with the Inner Athlete Podcast. You're the first guest to have. Well, we're proud to have you as our first guest.
Well, having that knowledge, I'm excited to be here, and not that the bar will be set high, but no, it's good to have a chat with you guys. It's been 2 years over Zoom and all that sort of stuff. So, I guess I met Dave 2 hours ago in person, and yeah, I'm really excited.
Awesome. Now, for those who don't know Nic, I'm going to get Nic just to run in a little bit of his story, and then we'll kind of go from there in terms of, why is he here and all the amazing things he's got going for himself.
For me, who I am, I grew up in Bayside, around the area, in Hyatt, Cheltenham, around those areas, and I'm one brother of three, to a beautiful mother who raised us almost as a single mother, and then went to school around town, Sandringham, and progressed on to Parkdale Secondary, and throughout those years played a lot of sport, AFL, rugby league, athletics, basketball, and I guess found success in all of those and really enjoyed it. And my mum always said to me, Nic, I guess you're not going to make a decision. The sport will choose you, and that sort of happened as I progressed on to, playing rugby league at a higher level and enjoying it a bit more. And cutting a long story short, it's where I am here today. Having the opportunity to progress my rugby league career one step further, and that's me in a nutshell. Not really.
We met. You were working at a gym, and you were just working reception, and I was just there as a PT at the time. And for some reason, our paths crossed because we found out that we're both. You were playing for the Thunderbolts at the time.
I thought, he looks familiar. Then I saw him at work. He looks familiar again. There can't be two people that big in the same sort of,
Same tattoo, identical.
Yeah, so it was sort of a light bulb moment. Oh, cool. Hey, I'm Nic. I am Trent. And then I guess the relationship grew from there.
Yeah, it's... Then at the time I was working with the under-18s, and we were still kind of, getting to know each other and whatnot. And I think then off-season came, and you decided to do some training with me.
Well, that's because I saw what you were all about, and that wasn't... I guess that's what I was drawn to. It wasn't what I believe to be just a standard personal trainer do. 3 sets of 8, this and that. It was, very athletic focused, and that was what I was after. And I came with some prior injuries as well, and it was eye-opening, actually.
Because it was a completely different approach that we took when we first got you, because you had some lower back issues that we had identified pretty quickly. You had some ankle issues that came throughout. They were from previous injuries. Still continue, but less of a hindrance. That we had to address as well. Then your hand, and you busted your hand.
Yeah, and that was actually a really enjoyable block of training, even though I wasn't playing. We were able to manipulate certain things and be able to get the same result with, I still had a functional thumb. And just going back to when I first started doing isometric holds and all that sort of stuff. What do you call it? Fascia re-education?
Tissue re-education. Shout out to Jim Schneider at Wisconsin. That program kind of, when I first did that, I was just like, all right, this actually I felt a million times better when I did it post 6 weeks, and managed to implement with yourself and a few other athletes I've had. It's something more for athletes have had a couple years under their belts and that feel beat up, and for whatever reason you have to kind of re-expose them to becoming long and strong, essentially.
Yeah, I do recall you saying that multiple times, and I still probably draw on that too. And I still, when I do program for myself, do put that into my training because it's enjoyable. It's a different sort of challenge, and it's not as taxing.
Yeah, and what are the results?
Yeah, feeling, I guess, all those niggly sort of injuries that come along throughout the season are almost gone. I feel a lot better about myself backing up sessions. And yeah, it's a good break as well, having smashed your body. It's a good break to be able to dial it back in terms of overall intensity, but the challenge is still there, placed on the muscle, and that's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your journey? So you left. When did you leave? So you left to go to Queensland.
Left to go to Queensland at the very end of 2019 to do. It was 2 weeks there to do, just to test the waters at a team in Brisbane called the Valley Diehards, which are quite a famous team. Just to test the waters, see how I go, and that got me. I was quite nervous and anxious about that because, leaving a comfortable Bayside to Queensland on my own, which was not on my own. I did have family friends up there, which I'll probably touch on how much they helped me out. But to go up there and test the waters, and then the hardest thing was probably navigating how everything will pan out. But
the unknown.
Yeah. The unknown, and I realised after that it's probably not worth stressing out about that because, as it turns out, looking in hindsight, everything worked out. So, did it 2 weeks there, and then came back home, and then was on multiple phone calls with coaches there, and just thought, okay, let's just pack up and go, and. That was at the start of 2020. I drove up on 2020 Australia Day. So it took us a couple of days to get up there, and I was welcomed into the Smiths, Leanne Smith, Adrian Smith, and
shout out.
Yeah, shout out in Cleveland, which is a lovely part of the world. And then from there I was with the Valley Diehards for the 2020 season, and then I guess everyone knows what happened that year. We only played 10 games that year and made it to the grand final, which was I should mention that I played reserve grade that year. There was two, I guess for the top age, 2 grades. There was BRL A grade, which is equivalent to a VAFA, like a top, like
Premier League.
Premier,
VAFA,
yeah. And then reserve grade, which is where I played majority of the football, and then made it to the grand final and didn't win that day. We came second that day. That was good fun.
Yeah.
And then from there, my plans were just to go back to Valleys and I guess try and play consistent A-grade football. And then I had a teammate, I asked him what he was doing, and he said, I'm going over to Ipswich. And I said, okay, is there any room for me? And he flicked me the coach's number, and I gave him a call, and he said, okay, come down, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I remember the conversation as well. It was the end of 2020, it was like a couple of days after your grand final as well. And you were asked, having a bit of a to and fro with each other in terms of like how to approach the off season and what you wanted to do. Do you remember that conversation?
I do, actually. I was driving home from work, and was this when I asked you about creatine?
No, I think you were asking about, do I need to put on size?
Yeah, that was the conversation. I said, Trent, I'm not really sure what route to take. I want to. You see now, athletes are bigger, faster, stronger. I want to get on creatine. It doesn't really, but I don't know. Respectfully take creatine, just to put on some size and I appreciate your words that day because you said, "Oh, look, maybe there's other ways we can get around that," and I'm thankful that I didn't jump on the game train and go down that road.
So because I think you are on average you were underweight as a forward. You're playing front row at the time, but you also play lock as well. So it's kind of like you're a utility forward essentially. And I think the conversation at the end of the day was like the game's getting faster, which it has. They've got like the 6 again rule in play quite often now. So to me, it's like if you're going to carry more mass, you got to inevitably have to become fitter. But the beauty part of, I guess, from discussion from the next season when you got up to Ipswich was your ability to remain fit and strong no matter what. And that's actually what allowed you to get into the starting 13.
Yeah, I mean, I attribute a lot of that to, being physically able to get through games at a consistent level, having put in the work and what I deem to be putting in the work, doing that over, a consistent period of time has, I guess, got me into where I am today. But yeah, backtracking to that conversation, I was, thankful of that because you always said to me, there was a stage where I'd tell you, my squat numbers that we did at training, and you said, "Oh, that's great, but there's probably no need to, load more weight on the bar. It's moving fast. Probably stripping the weight off and doing a different style of training and being able to apply that force into the ground and all that stuff that."
Yeah, just like be able to repeat the high intensity efforts more often rather than just being like a solid block or anything like that. You look at guys like Payne Haas, like he's a young dude. I don't know what he benches and squats and all that jazz. He's just a solid dude and he understands the game really well. I think you kind of almost like tipped the strength and where you need it to be. It's more about just kind of maintenance now. Your power and speed can always continue to improve in that department. I think as you start to understand the game a lot more, especially playing higher grades, you're going to be able to work a lot more smarter on the field and actually apply when you really need to be really intense within those games as you've developed more experience.
Definitely. I feel as though this next, progressing on from here, a lot of time will be spent not so worried about those numbers. We'll be worrying about how do I get faster, how do I get more powerful, and being able to use my body and my size to an advantage, and just working that out. Yeah,
because I remember when you were playing under 20s with Storm, or the Thunderbolts, you play front row, but you play 80 minutes.
Yeah,
which is unheard of, really.
I guess now that there's 8 interchanges, it does help that if you go with a more of a mobile, endurance-based front row, you'd be able to get, more out of them. But I think for me, and I am blowing smoke up my ass, I was able to play at a high level for those 80 minutes. I think that's sort of what I like to base my game off, being able to perform at a high level for an extended period of time. So I did enjoy that. I enjoyed that challenge, and I enjoyed being that guy. But I was, as you mentioned, pretty skinny and small, coming up against athletes when we played in the Jersey Flag competition, which is the under 20s in the New South Wales competition. But I did enjoy the challenge.
Yeah, and you've managed to kind of make that almost like your trademark.
Yeah, I think so. I just need to work on other things, which we can touch on. But yeah there are.
Well, what do you think those things are?
I'm not really a threat in terms of in attack. I'm not really any sort of threat. Not an imposing figure, which I guess, isn't what I want to be. However, there's always things that I can work on. And then, I guess, in defence, I like to... if I were to be noticed or anything like that, it would be on the back of how I work in defence. So, and there's little, very nuanced things that I know I need to work on. My coach has said that to me specifically, and I do appreciate his honesty, because it's he wouldn't be doing his job if he didn't tell me those things. So, it's just what I guess have to work on for the pre-season and then take into next season.
Cool. Thanks for that. I think one of the things that I noticed with you in your demeanour, you kind of carry yourself in a very certain way. Is there any particular reason why that you do?
Yes, there would be. I don't understand an underlying reason because I haven't really dissected it as much. I do like to think I am more of a mature soul, as your mum put it earlier, an older soul. But I guess I don't really know the foundation of it, where it stemmed from, but I have along the way identified what I believe are I guess how I carry myself, and with integrity and disciplined, and I guess because I know that those are good values, and they will hold me in good stead. And then stemming off those, I know that, I'm sure you guys have heard it before, that discipline leads to freedom. So I do try and steer toward down that path, and but I don't really have a direct answer for you.
That's all right. I think those are like two really good traits. Is that the discipline, and what was the other one? Sorry, integrity. That's right. Yeah. So those two, I think, key character traits are like what any athlete should really have at the end of the day in order to get where they want to be. And I know that, you know, I've seen your path over the last 4 years now. And you've literally just stuck on that whole thing of, you know, making decisions and based on what you believe in, and having, I guess, that carrying yourself with that level of integrity, and but also making sure that you remain disciplined throughout the whole process. Like, you know, you'd turn up, you know, half hour before your sessions just doing some mobility work, and you're doing all these little things in order to, you know, maintain yourself, and rather than just turn up at the last moment and get stuck into it, you're doing a lot of care for yourself, because you at the end of the day, you know, you have to invest in your body and the time into your body in order to get where you want to be, which is, I guess, a great segue into the Rugby League World Cup for Greece.
Yes, Yasu to all my fellow Greeks that may be listening to this podcast. I did butcher the way I said Yasu. Yasu, I think, is how I say it.
Don't look at me.
More emphasis on that. But yes, I'm off to play for my country, which feels nice to say. That being Greece, in 2 weeks' time. So fly off to Sydney and then meet all the boys there, and then go to Greece, pick up the rest of the crew, and then we are based out of Sheffield, in the UK. And then
that experience is huge, because for those who don't know, like, Greece have only been on the scene in the rugby league scene for not long, compared to like Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa, PNG, and even England as well. So I guess just kind of quickly summing up, how did this all come about?
I was driving to training, and my coach called me. Then I had a missed call from a random number, and I called my coach saying, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "Oh, just some bloke from the Greek Rugby League is going to give you a call." And I thought, okay, cool. And then his name's Terry. Terry gave me a call, and he goes, "Mr. Flocas, you know, how are you?" I was, "Good. How would you feel about maybe representing Greece this year at the World Cup?" And I was, driving on a highway, and I thought, you know, like, how good's this? Definitely. The first thing I said was, yes, of course. I was first a bit hesitant because it was so unexpected and sort of out of nowhere, but I was full in. That night I got my birth certificate, my dad's birth certificate, my grandfather's birth certificate, sent it over to him, and I was very conscious of who I told as well, because I didn't want to get my expectations up and then come this time of year and be like, oh, what happened to the Greek Rugby League thing? And I said, that never eventuated. So, I only told my mother, who was, I had to tell her to rein it in a couple of times. But, it just came with a phone call, and then I asked him, what do I need to do to be selected? And he said, just keep playing at the level you're playing. And
so when was this? When did you get the phone call?
It was early in the year. I'd say around April. So before my birthday's in June, around April. And then from there, I just, always, that was my motivating factor throughout the whole year. Everything I do was focused on that. So that was in conjunction with playing for the Ipswich Jets, playing at a consistent high level there. But underlying that was having the opportunity to play for Greece, and knowing that every session I did, whether it be at training, outside of training, was, a stepping stone to be able to represent Greece and play in the World Cup, which is, I do underplay it a lot, that, I'm going into a World Cup, but it does sound pretty cool to say in front of my friends here that I am going to do that. Everything I was doing was underpinned by, the opportunity to play at the World Cup, and knowing that if I'm not there, my position is easily replaceable. I'm only learning that jersey and that position. So, that kept me honest, and that's where I am. Yeah,
a boy from Hyatt. Victoria. For those that don't know, correct. Victoria is AFL dominated very much.
It is, and it was coming outside of Victoria into Queensland. I mean, AFL is very, in comparison, small, for lack of a better word. Obviously, there's traction behind the Brisbane Lions, who didn't do too badly this year. However, it's, live and breathe rugby league in Queensland. I know that New South Wales is more densely populated with, they obviously had Sydney Swans in the grand final, but I know that there's, the traction for rugby league has been there since, probably the 1800s.
A long time.
Yeah.
Very long time. Cool. So I guess the way that I see the Rugby League World Cup is, for the smaller nations, it's kind of like, and yes, the smaller nations do pull players from other competitions, more from, like, I guess the state leagues in this case, or maybe it's like maybe from New Zealand or something like that in the competitions over there, or PNG, Samoa, whatever it may be. And basically, it's almost like you get to perform on the world stage, number one, but number two, there's NRL coaches, NRL players actually playing, and then this might be the resume builder for you to get to where you want to be, which is getting a NRL contract.
I mean, there's a fine line between being optimistic and realistic. I'm going in with no expectations and no, I'm not owed anything. If I know that I put in the work and show who I am, and whether or not they want me a part of their cause, then, that'd be great. If not, I know I'll be going back to a great club and a great coach who only wants the best out of me. So I know either way things fall, I'll be in a good position to progress my career after that, which is, when I put it like that, is it's a good position to be in, I feel. But going back to having Greece in the World Cup, it is their first World Cup, it is our first World Cup, and we're just going there. We just want to be able to compete, to be able to give teams, not to give them an easy run.
Give them a hard time.
Make them, Greece are coming, whether or not it's this World Cup or the one in 4 years' time. We've made the World Cup for a reason. We're ranked 10th in the world. So we qualified in 2019, as I alluded to before. But speaking to some players who have represented Greece, they just want to be able to compete, which, I'm sure every other team is. However, we're going there with a point to prove.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, representing Greece and putting them on your shoulders, and trying to play whatever the Greece brand of football is, and then eventually build up what rugby league is in Greece, well, what it should be, make them more competitive, and so they can compete. I guess maybe it is within other nations, because I'm geographically, I don't know where Greece is in relation to France, but France do have a strong competition.
They do,
there.
yeah. And one thing we are really proud to announce is that Greece has the most domestic players.
Selected?
Selected. So we have 8 players that play in the Greek competition over there. So, and that's the most out of all of the, I'd say, tier 3 nations going to the World Cup. So, and we are really proud of that, because the blokes that are in the team at the moment they saw it from the bottom growing up. As in, there's people in the Greek community who follow rugby league who have been there from the start, and to be able to, I guess, not have the team full of Aussie Greeks, as we are called, is a proud moment for Greek rugby league, I believe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dave, do you have any follow-up questions you want to ask?
I just wanted to say, with the Greek national team, you've got quite a good coaching staff there, and the team's full of high-quality players as well. Who would you say is the coach for the Greek national team?
Steve Georgalis, who is the assistant coach for the North Queensland Cowboys, who had a very close encounter with Parramatta 2 weeks ago.
Last weekend.
So I feel for him, but now he can get things in order for us to be able to get over to Greece and stuff. So he's coming with a wealth of knowledge, and I met him for the first time. We had a Greek dinner to, I guess, congratulate the team, and the team was announced there. So it was really good to meet him there, and he was, up in arms, happy to see everyone, and which got me a lot more excited about, I guess, the journey we're going to embark on next Monday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really enjoyable for you. Like, it's very, I see highlights from, the Lebanese team and whatnot, and, they're dancing and parading around, and, with, at Robbie Farah's, restaurant. And
yeah. I guess to be a part of something that everyone has shared interest and stuff. Doesn't matter what team, what environment. I'm sure you find it here. It's there's something inspiring, and you get a good dopamine hit and all that sort of stuff from it. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, we'll wrap this up. If you like this episode, if you want more guests coming on board, please leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment below who you'd like to see on the podcast. We'd like to get more local athletes that that we've been able to help and nurture to get to where they want to be in their careers. And I think that's really the big driver of Inner Athlete, is to help them use Inner Athlete as a bit of a launching pad for their careers and move them in the right direction, from the S&C to the mentoring to the coaching side, and even providing the appropriate resources for them to move forward as well. Anything else you want to say, Dave?
Yeah, if you're listening to this on Spotify, and you can listen to Nic's softly spoken, calm demeanour, pop on the YouTube and see how big he is on the screen. So I think, if you listen to Spotify, pop on the YouTube, see what it's all about. We've got some good content on there as well.
Cool. That's a wrap.
Thanks to the team at Inner Athlete and Dave and Trent. It's been, from seeing you starting at Crunch to here, it's really inspiring, and I'm really happy for you guys to be able to build the environment I guess you want to be a part of. And I've really enjoyed coming back here today and being amongst it once again. The Inner Athlete Sanctum, I called it, and then you loved that name, so... it's been really good. Thanks for this opportunity. Podcast 1 out of the way. It's been good fun.
And hopefully many more to come.
Many more to come.
Correct. Yeah, I hope so too. And somewhere along the way. I believe it.
Cool. All right. Thanks,
see you after the World Cup.
Yes.
Yes.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.